My name is Dion. I'm an addict.
Dion.
And good to be in the Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And I guess I'm gonna do this timer thing. I thought about, you always think about what you're gonna say whenever they ask you to lead a meeting. It don't matter whether you're at a convention or whatever. And I'm glad my sponsor told me early on, never prepare a speech, just open your mouth and let God do the talking. And because anything you write down, you ain't gonna say it any damn way. And then after the meeting, if you hear your tape, you're gonna be like, hey, I ain't say anything I wanted to say anyway, so don't even fight it. You know what I mean? You just get up and just roll with it, right? So I'll put my disclaimer out there first. My disclaimer is that I don't work for Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not a sales rep for Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not here to recruit anybody to join Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not here to convince you to stop using, get a sponsor, go to meetings or any of that. You know what I mean? I'm here because I'm an addict and I need help, And if you stay around long enough, somebody will ask you to lead a meeting. So the disclaimer is really for me, right? So, I'll try to manage the time in a way because my topic is, I was talking to, I think it's Mitch, and we were going over the topics. And we started off with the traditions, and then we narrowed it down to the 6th tradition, and then we was hitting on the symbol, and then we was talking about the state of NA, and I'm not really quite, I know it has something to do with the tradition, so we'll end up there, right? So what I do is I'll try to take about maybe 5 or 10 minutes and qualify myself, and then maybe take a little time to share what happened, you know what I mean, and then get into the topic. So when I first got here, I had what's called a repertoire. I dropped out of school in the 2nd grade. He's talking about that GPA. I can identify with that, right? I dropped out of school in the 2nd grade. And so for those who may not know, you guys remember I dropped out of school. So I'm thinking everybody knows more than I do, right? But for those who don't know, a repertoire is a limited amount of words in your vocabulary, right? And you use those limited amount of words to conversate and communicate everything with people. So I'll give you a glimpse of my repertoire that I had when I got here. Say, for instance, I witnessed a crime, and the police asked me, they say, sir, did you see what happened? I said, yes, I did. It was 3 niggas and a bitch, right? And the police would say, so it was 3 black guys? Nah, only one of the niggas was black. It was 2 white niggas. I don't know what the bitch was, Nigga meant male, bitch meant female, for those who don't speak repertoire, right? And then, the rest of the language had to do with getting and using, who got it, you got half, that kind of stuff, right? So I learned to, eventually people in NA helped me go back to school, get a GED, actually went to the University of Maryland for mechanical engineering and was able to get vocabulary, right? And the language, the only real language I really understand is Narcotics Anonymous. And I think I'm kind of fortunate that I did drop out in the 2nd grade because when I got here, I didn't understand the English language very well. And so as my sponsor was guiding me through the steps, I had to look up all the damn words anyway, And so I wouldn't, suggest that anybody drop out of school in the 2nd grade so that you can have a blank page so you can learn how to, the language in Narcotics Anonymous, right? But to qualify myself, I grew up in a neighborhood where the ice cream man would come around like every 5 minutes. And I remember my first physical addiction was candy. And I remember writing in my first step how at age 7, the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. When I first heard that in a meeting, I knew that my mother had went to the meeting before I got there, right? And told y'all what to say. Because only my mother knew that about me, about the finding ways and means to get more. I've been doing that all my life. And I can remember being early age, just, stealing and lying and just doing things to get some money for the ice cream truck, I remember my aunt had this big old car. It was a electric 225, they call it deuce and a quarter, right? And, the old cars, you can enter the trunk through the back seat. And I saw her, put some stuff in the back of the trunk. And so, I'm casing her, and she was getting ready to go to the store. And I said, can I go? She said, sure, right? And we get to the store, and she said, you coming in? I said, no, wait for you, right here. And when she came out, I had the back seat folded down, and all she saw was my little bony ass sticking out of her trunk, rooting through her trunk, right? And she said, what are you doing? And I lied. I said I was getting ready to play hide and go seek, but you came back too soon. Just a bad little lying, little stealing, just an addict, man. You can't leave your property unattended around no addict. I don't care what the age. I just happen to be 7. Me and this disease, we go way back, right? So I'm at the ice cream truck copping, right? And, usually with money that I stole, and I would buy like 25 penny cookies and 50 liquid whips and 4 packs of now laters and some jawbreakers and some BB bats and a bag of potato chips and a pickle and a soda, and I get down to 3 pennies and I ask the man on the truck, I'll say, how much are the squirrel nuts? And he said, a penny. I said, well, give me 3 of them, And that's how I cop. I cop till all the money is gone. You know what I mean? And, I always share that part of my story to qualify myself, because if I'm not careful, I find myself in a meeting talking about the disease and the switch from drugs to gambling or, tricking or, whatever, and sponsor would say, Dion, how can it switch when it ain't never went nowhere, All you did was spend all your money at age 7 at the ice cream truck, and you got old enough to spend it on drugs, age 8, right? And ever since age 8, and until you came to Narcotics Anonymous, you spent all your money on drugs, and now you clean. And you broke every day after payday, every payday, right? So it might be a little more to it, Dion. You might be one of us, you might be an addict. You know what I mean? And so I say I qualify myself with that, know that I am an addict, right? Fast forward a little bit about, the transition from, where I was and what happened. I eventually did go back to school. Sponsors say I should share, sometimes share the hope, some of the things, because I got a tremendous life. Everybody I know in Narcotics Anonymous got a tremendous life. It's not about material things, NA is not about material things, but in the DC area, they, when you're new to the fellowship, they look out for you. They help you out, give you ride to meetings, put a couple dollars in your pocket and all of that. But then at some point, they start talking about 3 basic necessities, that you need to take care of, shelter in your name, right? Income, which is either a job or a business, and legal transportation in your name. And depending on how raggedy you are in any one of them areas, it might take some years to clean up just one of them. You know what I'm saying? When I got here, my license was suspended in 8 states and revoked in Washington, D.C. So it took me 8 years just to get a driver's license, you know? And I'm an addict, man, you know what I mean? And I probably could have cleaned that part of my life up, but this is just an addict, a little more qualification. You know, I had a Volkswagen R32. You know, back then it was well, it was R32, it was R32. And in the state of Maryland, you have to have a tag on the front and on the back, you know? And I refuse, you know, to deface an R32 by putting a tag on the front. You know, you don't do that to an R32. You know what I mean? So I'm driving around, suspended in 8 states and revoked in DC, refusing to put a tag on the front of my car, you know, and hit a bottom with that, because when you get pulled over with driving while suspended, you don't get a ticket, they lock you up. And, you know, so I got locked up, I think it was like 3 or 4 times in 1 month. And where I hit a bottom was I had left DC and I got on Route 50, and there was, so I passed the state trooper, and you know how you do, you look, and sure enough, the lights went on. And it turns out it was a cadet that was being trained. He wasn't even a full damn officer. He was a cadet, training how to stop people. And he came up, he's maybe 12, 14 years old, just a little kid. You know, he's holding his pants up, you know, trying to do his tablet, he kept pulling his pants up. He had to show, the guy had to show him. And I remember getting handcuffed, and I'm like, you know, that moment of clarity, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I'm getting locked up by cadets. They get my shit together, man, you know what I mean? And hit bottom with that, right? You know, talk about being clean, man, and doing things. So, you know, eventually I did go on and got my license and took them with 3 basic necessities, went back to school. You know, just a glimpse of that. I worked in the field. My career is in engineering and manufacturing, work with engineers, and basically if you can think it, I can make it. I found out I was an inventor. I didn't know I was an inventor. I thought I just had these thoughts because of all the chemicals that I fuck with, you know? And the more chemicals I would fuck with, the more shit I could like create, man. I created, man, you know what I'm saying? Because we be getting high and sometimes the shit wasn't working. You know, the apparatus wasn't, you know, I'm like, man, look. And I would just, they'd be like, man, you should be an engineer, you know, with some of the stuff I put together, right? And, you know, so, but, you know, fast forward so I can get to the topic a little bit. You know, I actually had a pretty good career in engineering and manufacturing. I was highly sought out as a manufacturer. There was a mission to repair the Hubble telescope. It was a mission in the early 90s. The Hubble telescope was had to be repaired. And what the public don't know is that the propulsion system was failing. And generally, when things fall from space, they burn up coming into the Earth's atmosphere. And it took us about 80 years from the time that somebody was probably sitting around smoking and said, you know what? We need something up in space, right? That we could just take pictures. So we ain't gotta travel so much on this damn donkey, you know, drawing maps and shit. If I could just get a picture of the Earth, man, you know. You had to be high coming up with that, right? But anyway, it took us about 80 years to come up with, from the concept of the Hubble telescope to actually help on building it. And we were gonna lose all that technology. And I was sought after to make the part that repaired the Hubble telescope. The entire mission was centered around that part. And it's because of that mission, we still have GPS technology today. We were gonna lose it, you know, the GPS. In 1986, Congress passed a bill that people didn't know, but over half the currency in 1986 was that was in circulation was counterfeit, know that. So they changed the law. They changed the law to change how we manufacture our currency and how we print it. And I actually made the first vacuum chamber for bureau engraving that allowed us to put the colors and metal. All you gotta do is put a magnet on our currency and it's metal in it. And so I was sought after to do that. Michael Jordan bought a basketball team, North Carolina, and when you're wealthy, not rich, wealthy. When you're wealthy, you don't buy furniture. You don't shop for a house. You build a house and you design every part of the house to be the way you want it. And every piece of furniture, every spoon, every window, every doorknob is you had somebody make it. You know what I mean? That's how you live. But anyway, they had a design competition because Michael Jordan had scored 32,292 points in his career. And they gave us that as an idea, how to commemorate his career. And so, I came up with the concept of, his dining room table. I just get a table and drill 32,292 holes in it. You know what I mean? And they loved it. So if you go in Michael Jordan's dining room right now and eat at his table, it's a metal table with 32,292 holes drilled in it. You know what I mean? What I'm getting at is just, you never know how God is going to use you and how tremendous your life is going to be, once you get that garbage out of your system, But fast forwarding to the topic, the only thing that I did write down that I didn't want to forget, and that's, kind of where I've been for the past few years, is a number. It's like really, really been on my mind. And that number is 10,000, And what that number 10,000 is who we are. We are responsible for the message that's going to be here 10,000 years from now. That's who we are. He was talking about how young this fellowship is. There's a lot of stuff that's been around for a long time. But Narcotics Anonymous is the first thing that's ever been successful in arresting the disease of addiction. I shared this before at some meetings, like my hope, my hope now, I hope that 10,000 years from now, somebody don't overhear a conversation and the word basic text comes up and, some new members say, what's that? And they say, oh, that's what they used back in the 2000s, in the 19th century and shit, you know what I mean? And this one member has to search and find one in a museum some goddamn where, you know what I mean? Because, we just got so far away from it, right? So that's my hope. I hope that there's something that I'm doing today. He's talking about the spiritual awakening. My spiritual awakening, because my sponsor had me write out all the steps and all the traditions and all that kind of stuff, right? And, my spiritual awakening, God was, Dion, everything you know about the steps and everything you know about this fellowship and everything you know about how to not use drugs and how to not steal and how to not have sex with family members and how to not trick and how to not do a whole bunch of other areas I'm clean in, right? God said, it's for your dumb ass, Dion. Ain't for nobody else in Narcotics Anonymous. It's for you to live this program. I don't care what nobody else is doing, it's for you to do it. You know what I mean? And I kind of struggle with that because one of my sponsors, he has this thing he always say, you have to respect everybody's recovery or lack thereof, right? And some days I can work with that. And then some days it's a struggle, you know what I mean? And but yeah, it's a struggle sometimes to do that. But like I say, I struggle with that. And then when I had 25 years, I kind of revisited my spiritual awakening. So I had my spiritual awakening, at least 12 step. I had 12 years. So from 12 years to 25, I just wished I could find somebody in Narcotics Anonymous, man, that just wanted this thing as much as I do. You know what I mean? And that would just give this thing a chance for at least 2 months, because that was my plan. I was only going to do this for 2 months. It takes me 2 months to master any self-help program, any religion, any treatment. 2 months, I'm wearing whatever they're wearing. I know all the buzzwords. You can't pick me out of the herd, right? So when sponsor had me do this step work, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get 2 months in. I'm gonna do it, right? I had no idea 2 months was gonna be this long, right? But for those 2 months, because I was doing a lot of other stuff at the time, and for 2 months, I didn't do anything but Narcotics Anonymous. And as it turned out, the whole time I've been here, this is my only fellowship, and that's all I do. You know what I mean? So this thing really does work. And but I got 25 years, and I go to meetings. Like right now, I can name 10 facilities in the DC area. I can tell you what they write on the signs. I can tell you who the main person is. I can tell you what they do, and I ain't been at none of them places. I learned all that shit in meetings. People sharing it. I know what his pastor said last Sunday. I know what, doses of medications do what. I know all of that shit, and I learned all that in NA meetings. So I had this thing. I was gonna leave Narcotics Anonymous. I don't know where I was gonna go, but I wasn't gonna get high. I just had this strong desire to be in a place where all I hear about is the place, And so God revisited me in my spiritual awakening, and he said, Dion, because like I say, I just wish I could find one person, man, that really loved Narcotics Anonymous as much as I do, and is willing to just do Narcotics Anonymous for at least 2 months, right? And so just one person, right? So God revisited me, and God said, Dion, I told you, right, that this program is for your dumb ass. Nobody else. I don't know where you get this one motherfucker. I ain't said shit about one motherfucker, Dion. This program is for you to live, And, I don't know how God is loving and caring and soothing. That God talk breathes to me, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's how God speaks to me. But on that topic, the traditions, one of the traditions, like even in this event, like last year, there were some things that came about. And even when they talk about, even with the filming and all that kind of stuff, with the, with the anonymity and all of that. In the 12th tradition, it talks about, it says, humility is a byproduct that allows us to grow and develop an atmosphere of freedom. And it says it removes, 12th tradition, basic text, right? It says it removes the fear of becoming known. You know what I mean? This is a program of attraction rather than promotion. How the hell are we going to attract some goddamn body if they don't even know what the fuck we do? I just don't get that. But it is a personal choice whether, somebody's anonymity, whether you want to, right? And in the symbol, it says, probably the last that would be lost to freedom would be the stigma of being an addict. Now, the negative side of that is, oh, he was a junkie, or, she was a prostitute, or crackhead, or junkie, the drunk, all these negative things, that's the negative stigma. That's not the stigma they're talking about in there. They're talking about the stigma of being known as a member of Narcotics Anonymous, and, it's just kind of sad to me, but I don't know. Like I said, it's a program of attraction. He was talking about he hate newcomers. I think I was speaking at a convention one time, and I thought they was gonna beat me up because I said fuck the newcomers, right? And people didn't understand. Fuck the new. Why would you say that? And you speaking at a convention and you said fuck the newcomer. It was like, but I get that. You know what I mean? But it's just that I understand the language. You know, my sponsor said that when we get here, because of all the chemicals we use and things we did, by the time you reach Narcotics Anonymous, your ass is retarded. There's damage that's done. You know, I don't care how clean you are, you bathing, you got a new Cadillac or whatever, your ass is still retarded as a result of using. And he said the fact that we're not using drugs, we're just slightly retarded. You know, I'll give you an example of the spiritual retardation I'm talking about. I ski, and I was up in Vermont at a meeting, and I know the language. And they were, you know, did the secretary's report, and they were handing out the keychains, the key tags, and the girl said, oh, a 30-day chip, and somebody yelled key tag, and she said 60, she just kept saying chip. Chip is not our language, chip is from off. Right? And so I went, you know, I ain't gonna mess with her in a meeting. I pulled her to the side and I asked her, you know, she had one in her hand. I said, well, what is that in your hand? She said, it's a key tag. I said, well, why can't you call it that? She said, well, that's what we do. And it's just the level of retardation that she kind of, she couldn't work with it. She had a keychain in her hand and she couldn't understand why she couldn't call it a keychain. You know, but that's how much fucking down. I ain't talking about her, I'm talking about me and probably a bunch of other people who retarded motherfuckers in this room that know that some damage is done. You know what I mean? You know, and so fuck the newcomer, right? So the reason why I said that, you know, because I didn't want to just leave that out there and don't address it. But you know, I'm gonna come from the 5th tradition, just in case there's some retarded motherfuckers in this room, right? 5th tradition, the basic text, says the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel, right? The very next sentence says, for the newcomers. This is how they found Narcotics Anonymous and learned to stay clean. The very next sentence after that says, for the members. This reaffirms their commitment. Now, it's 2 sentences back to back. One sentence starts off for the newcomers. The very next sentence says for the members. Now, I dropped out of school in the 2nd grade, and I might not be as smart as most of the people in the room, but clearly they talking about 2 different motherfuckers. In case y'all, you know, I might, you know, I'm just saying, I don't want to call nobody retarded, right? But, you know, newcomers are not members of Narcotics Anonymous. So they say, well, why is the newcomer the most important person at any meeting? You know, because the newcomer trying to get his life together. He did medicine, religion, and psychiatry. You know, he done all these things and he heard there's a place and he came here. And if he walk or she walk in the door, if all they hear and see is the same goddamn thing they heard on the journey along the way, there's no 6th edition. There's no 6th tradition where it said Narcotics Anonymous is distinct, you know? Because the newcomer is looking at your ass and looking at me and say, what do we do when we lose a loved one? What do we do when we get terminal illnesses? You know, what do we do when we lose jobs? What do we do when we lose relationships? What do we do when we got a 2nd grade education and we got to go back to school? What do we do? You know what I mean? We double and triple up on meetings. That's what we do. You know, we pray. We go to meetings. We call our sponsor. And that's why the newcomer is the most important person. Because they, you know, you know, we're going to keep what we have by giving it away. And if we don't have a clear message, well, that was another thing me and Mitch was talking about. He said clear message, right? A clear message of narcotics and a clear message of recovery, right? So, and that I guess in wrapping it up, we're getting close to wrapping up. Somebody let me know when it's time. Give me a 5-minute warning or something. The seventh tradition, we are, as individuals, a lot of us are, we're no longer living in our mama's basements with our feet stinking, talking about who drunk up all the Kool-Aid and wrote their name on the bologna. Why you write your name on the bologna? What the fuck that mean? What that, I'm not supposed to eat it because you wrote your name on it? Why you writing your name on shit? What's the lock on the refrigerator? Why y'all doing that to me? You know what I mean? And so Narcotics Anonymous is growing. And so as groups, you know what I mean? It's time for us to get out of some of these goddamn basements. You know what I'm saying about my hopes, they are cities that I've been to where I can go down the street and I can ride past a building and it says Narcotics Anonymous. I've been to meetings in groups, and this is the group level, and there's a lot of corruption in the 80s in the DC area. And anytime you mention, groups getting their own facilities and they're doing some things, they don't want to shy away from it, you know what I mean? But we're young, man. You know what I mean? 10,000 years from now, what are we gonna be doing? What are we leaving for, the people coming behind us? You know what I mean? Paying $20 a month in a room that's clearly, about $1,500 an hour if you was to rent it for your wedding or some shit. You know what I mean? We addicts, man. We always want the easier, softer way and look for a fucking handout and shit. You know what I mean? But anyway, so, I hope that's one of my hopes. I hope I live to see the day that I could drive through any major city and find a group, because this is the trick. This is the trick. Because I just look at average meetings that I go to, and probably in this meeting right here, there's probably at least 10 people in this room that got $100 that they can afford to give for 3 months. Just give it to a group. And if 10 people, that's $1,000. You know what I mean? For 3 months, give your group, $100 and get a place. You know what I mean? You find some place, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, or whatever. And instead of meeting there one day a week, you have a meeting at 7 in the morning every weekday, right, for the early people. You have a 12 noon meeting every day. You have a meeting around 6 something every weekday. You have one around 7 or 8 every weekday. And you have 3 or 4 meetings every Saturday and Sunday. Each meeting is a 7th tradition. At some point, the group, meeting that many times, it's fully self-supporting. It's got to start somewhere. Our service structure, most people say it's the group in the area, in the region, the world, starts with the individual. As individuals, we make up the group. And, after 2-3 months, you got enough 7 traditions that it'll grow from there. So, it's time for us to start marrying our own, burying our own, in their funerals, in their weddings. He's talking about outside issues. One of the most heartbreaking, all of us got over 30 years. He got over 30 years. I got 34 years. There's people, you can find people in Narcotics Anonymous with 30, 40, 50 years clean. Have you ever wondered why when somebody dies in Narcotics Anonymous, we can't even announce the fucking funeral at the Secretary's report? Because it's an outside issue, man. And we went through a situation in DC area maybe about 10 years ago where we lost like 14 members in 12 days, and all of them had over 20 years. And there was a couple of days I went to 2 funerals, and it will all, and Narcotics Anonymous wasn't spoken at all to any of them. You know, I was like, I couldn't do it anymore. I don't go to funerals with any member of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not saying I don't go to Christian funerals or religious. My aunt died, she's been a Christian all her damn life. I already know what church she's gonna go to and all that. I'm going to my aunt's funeral because she's a Christian. You feel me? But if you claiming you a member of Narcotics Anonymous and you die, you know, I ain't coming to your shit. I ain't coming to Joe's shit. Joseph Boyd, you know, I ain't going to his either. And he's next to me. I think he's the closest thing that I know, you know, somebody that really do this thing, right? So I got my funeral planned. You know what I mean? Keep a copy of my obituary with me. That's me right there. Right? My obituary says, on blank date, Dion died clean. He leaves behind a host of family and a rack of pigeons. Y'all call them sponsees nowadays. We call them pigeons because, you know, they carry the message and they always calling you, crapping on you about shit they doing, right? Dion's funeral will be held in a place where the words Narcotics Anonymous can be said, you know? The only thing we're gonna ask people to come up and accept is a white keychain. You know, at the funeral, they always ask the people to come up and, you know, no, not in mine, right? The only thing we're gonna, it says there are gonna be 7 speakers. The first one's gonna share on step 1, 2, 3. The next on 4 and 5. Next 6, 7. They're gonna get 10 minutes apiece, right? It's gonna turn into a meeting. Last 3 gonna get 10 minutes apiece, sharing on 10, 11, and 12. It says all are welcome to come share a celebration of infinity. And they say right here, it will be an eating meeting. So, you know, the celebration of infinity. You know, you're looking at a guy, man, I'm never going to use again. You know, I'm looking forward to dying clean. I ain't in no hurry. You know what I'm saying? And I mentioned Joseph Boyd. Now I'll give you a hint if you want a good seat at my funeral. What you want to do is, even if you don't have a copy of my obituary, get you a 1986 quarter. Don't tell nobody, right? Because Joe gonna probably be handling the seating arrangements. And because of my 25th anniversary, one of my uncles, Uncle Duffy, he's the guy in my family. He does all the funerals, he does all the weddings, and if somebody's really sick in my family, he's there at their bed to the last minute. That's Uncle Duffy. He just does that. As soon as somebody mentioned they're getting married, oh, is Uncle Duffy gonna do it? You know, as soon as somebody died, did you call Uncle Duffy? You know what I mean? So what I did, my 25th anniversary, I brought Uncle Duffy's ass to my anniversary, right? Because Uncle Duffy only knows 2 things about me. All he know is I go in his house, and when I'm in his house, he don't have to watch me. That's all he knows. He don't know anything else about me. You know, I mean, he knew me before Narcotics Anonymous, but he don't know. So I introduced him to Narcotics Anonymous, and the reason why, you know, I mentioned Uncle Duffy, because of I know my uncle. You know, he working his program. You know, and he gonna try to get me. I know my uncle. He gonna try to get me. You know what I mean? And he gonna say, you know, folks, I was with Dion, because I went to his house and I told him, I said, man, look. You know, if anything ever happened to me, I need to let you know that some folks are probably going to show up. And he said, folks, because he know my story, right? I said, no, it's not like that. And I told Uncle Duffy about Narcotics Anonymous. And I explained to him why I am the way I am and this transformation I have, right? And, you know, so it's real important for him because what's going to happen is, and he always starts his little speech off the same way, because he will purposely wait by your bedside until you die. That's what he does. I've seen him do it. Just so when he does the funeral, he can say, I was there when he took his last breath. And then he'll always say this. He'll say, just before he took his last breath, he accepted. You know what I'm saying? Old witch cop, right? Wasn't off, but accepted something else, right? And that's when I need one of y'all to stand up at my funeral and say, no disrespect, Uncle Dumpy, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I need y'all to stand up for me, man. You know, don't let them get me. You know what I'm saying? It didn't happen. You know, Dion died clean. Dion was a member of Narcotics Anonymous, you know? And like I mentioned earlier, as groups and as a fellowship, I believe it's time for us to get up out these goddamn basements, start living the seven traditions like so many of us are. You know, we at the fucking Hilton during the convention. You know what I mean? I know in my area, I remember we started off doing, meeting, having conventions at some, some pretty cheap places, right? So that's who we are, man, 10,000, right? And it's that time, okay. So I'll wrap up with this. I'll finish with this. There's another number. It's another number I want you to take with you. So 10,000, if anybody can think, I don't give a fuck when you washing dishes, when you driving your car, everything you own, you might not believe this, but I believe it. I know everything I own, every penny I ever had, I got from Narcotics Anonymous. If it wasn't from Narcotics Anonymous, I wouldn't have anything that I had. It's not fucking yours. You know what I mean? That's just my belief, right? I got third tradition. I can't say it was yours and what's not, right? But think about 10,000. What are we doing today, man, to make sure that clear message is here 10,000 years from now? And the last thing the other number is 86,400. Make note of that number. That's how many seconds in a 24-hour period. Even if you sleep 12 hours, you still got 43,200 seconds, right? It don't take but a second to invite God in. I didn't know that. When I first got here, I spent about 10 seconds a day with God. 5 seconds in the morning, please give me the strength to get through the day without taking a drink, drug, or cigarette. And 5 seconds at night. Thank you, God, for letting me see another day without taking a drink, drug, or cigarette. Everything in between them 5 seconds was straight beyond. There was no connection with the high power, with God at all, right? And I remember my sponsor had me revisit that third step. And they said it's a decision we can't make often enough. And I tried that shit. I tried to see if I could wake up every day and connect with God and stay connected all day long. But I fucked with a lot of chemicals and I couldn't really do it. But I found that there are tens of thousands of opportunities every day, even at the sandwich shop, you know what I'm saying, to invite God in. And I found that as long as I invite God in, I tend to get along with people a little better because this program only does one thing, and that reconnects us with God. And this disease only has one move. And the move works so good, it doesn't have a backup move. Because our dumbass been going for the same damn move all our life. This disease, one move, separate you from God and devour your ass. My name is Dion. I'm at it.